Hey guys, it's me, Greed here. I'm still here. It's been over a year. It's actually been a lot longer than that, but it's been over a year of me making these kinds of videos where I talk about Overwatch and I air my grievances with it and I complain about the issues of the game and I incessantly complain and I doom, like Twitter likes to believe. Anyway, I want to go back through my channel and I want to look at some of the videos I had made in the past, and I want to see if over a year later, if there's still an issue, was I wrong about it, was I right about it, because the thing is I get a lot of comments where people like to say that I was wrong about something, or that I'm dumb, or that when I predict something's gonna happen, they're gonna say, no, the reason you predict it to be that way is because you're a doomer, it won't end up that way, you're wrong, and things like that, and I almost always end up being right. I personally cannot remember anything I've been wrong about, so this is why I'm going back. I'm probably not going to look at absolutely every video because I've made quite a few, and this will take ages. But we'll go over some of the more popular ones, maybe. So I had made a video over a year ago called Overwatch 2 is intentionally malicious. The general premise of the video was going over about how, I think it was about how the matchmaking was fucked and it was broken and it was done like that on purpose, and it was an engagement optimized matchmaking system to try and incentivize player engagement. I think over a year later, that's true. That's still true. So there we go. I would say I've already hit one. Over a year ago, I made a video called Kiriko has been overpowered for 335 days. I actually made a follow-up video to that called Kiriko's been broken for like 800 days or whatever I said. I'm actually not too sure exactly what the title of that video is. I forget. But that is still the case. Now, obviously, people are going to be like, oh, but Kiriko's win rate on overbuff is fucking whatever. I don't care. I don't care about win rate or pick rate. I have a video going over win rates and pick rates, and they prove as to why you cannot balance a game like this based on win rates and pick rates. I suggest everyone watch that because actually it explains it better than I ever could in 30 more seconds here. But a quick explanation as to why Kiriko is still broken. I think she still has a lot of things that circumvent the core fundamentals of the game. I think Suzu is still a very broken ability that requires zero effort for a shitload of value, and I don't think that's a good thing to build a game off of. I don't think you should be rewarded for something so simple as to pressing a button and getting mass value for it, especially in a game where there are actions that are extremely complicated or things that require a lot of learning or require a lot of awareness. I don't think you should be able to get around having to learn those skills and being able to just get flat value for pressing buttons. I think that's always been bad. A year ago, I made a video about Orisa and how her design is bad. I don't like the lack of playmaking ability in it. I do not like it's very just kind of stand still, eat cooldowns, get shot at all day, and be invincible and kind of just like bully people around with very minimal skill expression. I don't think heroes like that deserve to be in Overwatch when you have things like Genji, Tracer, Lucio, Ball, Winston, Ana. Heroes like that require a large amount of skill expression to get a lot of value. I think there should be more heroes like that and less heroes like Orisa where they're just very kind of stand still, very reactive, not very fun. Also, I made videos where I said the word reactionary and people got really pissed off at that because it's the wrong word. My bad. And then I deliberately kept using reactionary and they kept getting mad. So I'm going to keep doing it. I know it's the wrong word. I forget. I think it's actually reactive is the word or whatever. I don't care. I don't give a shit. I'm going to keep saying reactionary because I think it's funny that they get mad at me. I'm sorry. Anyway, we'll continue now. I made a video about why supports need to be overpowered over a year ago as well. It dove into things like 5v5 and how that made it so supports had to be able to take more duels because the off tank wasn't available anymore in 5v5 to actually help peel for them. Therefore, they had to be able to take more duels so that the tank didn't come back and peel and give space, which meant that they became more survivable on their own, which hindered the DPS role in doing their job. And I think that's still present to this day. I don't think there's a single support in the game that does not follow that trend or that rule. But it is what it is. Again, I made a video about Brigitte and how she broke the game. That's true. I made a video how Baptiste was the most broken hero in Overwatch, and I think at the time that might have been correct, but to this day, I don't think so. I do think he's got one of the most broken designs, absolutely. But when you've got things like Kiriko in the game, and when you've got things like Lifeweaver in the game, and people are going to say, Lifeweaver's dog shit. I agree he's dog shit, but his design is so bad that it kind of makes it feel as though things that are not, or the perception of it is that something may not actually be overpowered, but it feels like shit. For example, Life Grip is objectively too strong. It's in the same boat as Orisa, it's in the same boat as Kiriko Suzu. They are zero effort abilities that get a shitload of value for circumventing the requirement of needing certain skills, and I don't think any of those things are healthy for the game. I made a video about how Double Shield never left. That is still true to this day. That's actually a very good one. Basically, the way Double Shield functioned, I'll do a quick explanation because I'm sure everyone's heard this a million times. The way Overwatch 1 Double Shield functioned initially was off-rip when Roll Q came out, Season 18 I believe it was. Sigma released with Roll Q, and Sigma was disgustingly overpowered and used to run Orisa Sigma together, and you would run some AoE support on top. And the first iteration of Double Shield was because Sigma was very, very overpowered, and that's why it happened, right? Now, obviously, Brick and Bap were in play, and they made it, obviously, they amplified how bad it was, but they were not the sole purposes as to why Double Shield happened. Then, Sigma got majorly nerfed, and Double Shield went away. Then, a couple of seasons later, maybe not a couple of seasons, but a short time after that, Brick and Bap ended up getting large buffs, as well as every other support in the game getting large buffs, and it meant that Double Shield returned because Double Shield went away from being the actual traditional Double Shield comp. This is why I think the comp gets a bad name. Shouldn't be named the first thing. The original Double Shield prior to the Brick and Bap buffs is not the same Double Shield that we got after the Brick and Bap buffs, because the reason they got played and the way they were played were different between patches. So original Double Shield was very bunkery. You would stand on top of each other, you would MO, you'd play Bastion, you'd play bunker in a corner, and you would stand there forever. The second iteration of Brick and Bap, Double Shield with Brick and Bap was a less of a bunker comp and more of an angle comp, where the Orisa and the Sigma would go together to occupy a space, then Sigma would break off from the Orisa and clear angles so that she could open up, or so he could open up the DPS angles for his team, and then they could occupy that, and then they could bunker point afterwards. But usually what was happening was it allowed Sigma and Orisa to break apart from each other and take different angles, because Brick and Bap were so powerful, they were able to upkeep them through all the pressure they would receive while they were solo tanking on angles, because you had things like MO, Break Packs, Inspire, and so on. And you also had things where Orisa and Sigma had mass sustain abilities like Fortify and Flux and so on, or whatever the fuck the sucky boy is called, you know what I'm saying? So that's why original Double Shield and the new Double Shield happened, and I think that still holds true to this day, where a lot of the problems with the game come down to the support's ability to sustain a tank in situations where he realistically should not be able to live, and I think that outright breaks the game, and that's why it's never left, because we're still in mass AoE sustain comps almost every season, and it's never changed because they don't know why it's broken, and I assume they'll probably just never fix it because of that. Another thing is, I said Moira started Overwatch's downfall. I still agree with that to this day. It was a video about how Moira's AoE healing was the beginning of something really bad, in the sense that they were getting comfortable making designs that required minimal amounts of skill for mass amounts of effort, or mass amounts of value, and things like AoE healing started getting more prominent in the game, where you could kind of just sustain a whole team very easily, and there wasn't a lot of decision making in who you were going to heal, who you weren't going to heal, and so on. So I believe Moira was the initial start of a big reason as to why Overwatch started to die. I made a video about why I was quitting. I did quit for a long time. Thing is when I made that quitting video, a lot of people think, well, you came back like 2 months or like 3 months later or something, so you didn't quit. I did quit for a long time. I ended up coming back. What else did I talk about? Oh, I talked about the fucking matchmaking system and how it was broken, how it didn't make any sense, and especially how the modifiers don't make any sense in the game. I don't think in a game as volatile as Overwatch you can have the ranked modifiers like you do, like expected uphill battle and so on, because it's just too difficult to predict the outcome of a game a lot of the times, because the amount of variables that go into winning or losing a game. So you end up having games where you might win, where you've just spawn camped the enemy team for 10 minutes and you get an uphill battle, and you might get spawn camped for 10 minutes and get reversal. You know what I mean? It's just, I don't think the modifiers should be in the game. I've gotten, even recently, a lot of modifiers that feel like shit. I've beaten guys where I've just, like, we've beat them, like, my tank was like 45-0, and like their tank was like 0-12 or whatever, and then we got an uphill battle, or games that were really close, and then we win them and we get expected. It's like, well, not really though. that was kind of bullshit. So I still agree to this day that matchmaking is fucked. I don't like the modifiers in the game. I think the modifiers are a bad influence. I made a video about how Season 9 removed a lot of skill from the game. I've made a lot of videos on Season 9. I still think that's true. I think the hitbox change, it made it so that consistent heroes became more consistent, and it also obviously helped the less consistent heroes to become a little bit slightly more consistent, but it buffed the hit scans substantially more than it buffed the projectile DPS, because the hit scans benefit from more consistency because of the fact that they are inherently consistent on their own. Therefore, when you apply things that make them even more consistent easier, they get amplified, and it's exponential instead of, you know, additive. It's multiplicative, which breaks the game even further. And it also just broke a lot of the breakpoints for the game. It didn't make it fun. It made it so that aiming was less important of a skill, because it meant that more people could easily access that thing. There was no difference between hitting a headshot right in the middle of someone's face and hitting the very edge of the Season 9 hitbox. They did the same amount of damage, therefore you were less rewarded for having good aim, which I think is just not a good thing. It rewards skill less, and just, you know what I mean, you can be more brain dead and win more easily, and I think that's still bullshit. And I think honestly they should have gotten rid of Season 9. Season 9 should have been one season, and then in Season 10 they should have went, yeah, actually this is kind of fucked, this is really bad. I made a video about how Samito was wrong and 5v5 is way better. That was obviously hilarious. A substantial amount of people ended up falling for that. Actually, that video has, I think, like 200 people unsubbed from me for that video, but it was fully troll. And I loved making that video. I made videos about X Defiant and how it'd be Game of the Year. That was fucking brain dead and wrong. That game was terrible. It was fun for a while when it came out, but it ended up being not that amazing. After a while, it became very bland. I made a video about movement tech and how I named the movement tech after myself, and it turned out everyone was using it and it was broken, but no one called it my thing because people discovered it before me. So there we go. What else did I talk about? I've talked about a lot of stuff. Oh, I made that video about how the majority of Overwatch players don't understand the game. It's called r/Overwatch is full of idiots. It's 35 minutes long. It's basically a video of me breaking down a Samito clip where Samito plays a fight perfectly and he loses anyway, even though he played perfectly, and it's like the Overwatch Twitter or Overwatch Reddit hard coping about how Samito just lost because he's bad or whatever, and it was just wrong. And it's just explaining that the majority of Overwatch players are watching a thing where they actually simply do not understand why things happen or do not happen, yet they talk like they do know. So they end up getting this perception where they think they know everything when they end up being wrong the vast majority of the time, which is why I think a lot of opinions on this game are really bad, because a lot of people just genuinely do not understand the game. Especially like even like GM players, low GM players, just some of them have wild takes. There's Kiriko one tricks in like low GM that just are full brain damage and think their hero is like really high skill or something, so that's cool. I made a video about how 5 stacking ruins the game and how... Well, I didn't say it ruins the game. I said it ruins the game against solo players, which is what a big problem was. In Overwatch 1, if you queued as a 6 stack, you could only ever go against other 6 stacks. It would leave you in queue forever until you got another 6 stack. However, when Overwatch 2 came out and you could 5 stack in ranked, it meant that because the queue times were getting so bad because so many people were quitting the game, it meant that 5 stacks could start queuing against solo queue players, and it ruins the game. And that still happens to this day. You can still get 5 stacks into solo queues, and it still feels like shit, and I do not understand why it's still a thing, but it doesn't feel lame, because the thing is, right, is an uncoordinated, like, Masters solo queue team, where, like, 5 solo queue players, they're gonna get fucking gapped by that 5-man team of like high diamond players. They're all coming together, working together, synergizing well, playing together, calling a play, making the play together. It's not about individual skill, it's about how that synergy comes together and how it's broken, and how you need to separate stacks from solo queue, because when you have solo queue players against stacks, the solo queue players are always at an inherent disadvantage, even if the solo queue players are better at the game, because they're going to lack that teamwork that is so important in the game because of the fact they're a solo player. I made a video about Clash and how it's one of the worst game modes ever made, and how you can actually gain a big advantage through losing on purpose, because the maps were so defender-sided, which meant if you lost the first point backed up and stabilized, you would go in with a massive map advantage going in to one of your points, meaning that if you won that, you could snowball all the way to the middle point and cap the middle point, and then if you just played safe and continued to do that, where you were giving up point on purpose and then snowballing afterwards, you could end up winning a lot of games by losing on purpose. It obviously wasn't the best strat. The best strat was obviously just trying to play the map, but the fact that you could gain a large advantage by losing is obviously silly. I do not understand why they allowed us to do that, but they did, and that's how that game mode worked for a long time. I think Clash in general is terrible. The maps obviously are going to make it a lot worse than just the game mode itself. But even the game mode just inherently does not allow for you to complete the map, which is the big reason the push is so bad as well, is that when you create a game mode, the game mode's purpose should be about completing the map, going from the start of the map to the end of the map, and actually like fully going through the game mode, right? But Clash and Push disallow that, because as the losing team loses, they gain more and more and more advantages throughout the map, meaning that eventually the attacking team is going to get so overwhelmed by the free value that the defending team is getting that they're going to get pushed back, and they're just going to be this back and forth where the map never gets completed, and it becomes very, very boring, because a lot of it ends up just being a big back and forth over and over and over again until one team ult dumps, and it's insanely boring. I think Push and Clash are both genuinely awful, but it is what it is. I made a video about how this ended up being really popular, one of my more popular videos, 87k 5 months ago. I made it about how I said how I proved Overwatch is rigged, and I said how new accounts get a massive advantage, and it was specifically about Smurf protection as well as other things. But there were large cases where you could jump on another account and get massively higher rank and sustain that rank, and that's still true to this day, by the way, where you could very, very easily maintain a much higher rank on different accounts, where I'll have accounts that are in like GM1, GM2, and accounts that are in Diamond, and they'll both have a 50% win rate. I don't know how it happens, but it does, and the game's the game. And it happens to a lot of my friends too. A lot of my top 500 friends have similar things, where they have accounts that are in lower ranks, for some odd reason, and their win rates tend to actually be lower as well. I made a video about how CC is generally becoming problematic again. In the move to Overwatch 2, they said that they were going to remove a lot of the CC from the game because a lot of the CC is very boring, and I would agree that a lot of the CC is very boring in the game. However, over time, they've gradually implemented more CC, or they've made the existing CC a little bit stronger. I made something about Concussion Mine. It was during the Queen meta, where there was a lot of CC, because it was Queen, Junk, and some other CC-based heroes, where basically the strat was you would just bully the enemy tank all day and CC them as much as possible. So you were getting like Queen Knife pulled in, then you were getting like Concussion Mined into the air, and then there was some other shit you were getting slapped and pulled and all this nonsense. And it was really boring, and I think that's a big part of why a lot of the tank experience in this game is so bad, is there's so much CC still in the game, even after they said they were going to remove it. They just ended up, for some reason, bringing it back. I'm not entirely sure why they ended up doing that. I made a video about why casual players love competitive design. I think that's easily one of my best videos I've ever made, and it goes deep into the idea that a lot of casual players end up actually really enjoying the more competitive design, like Genji and Tracer and so on, because they like the idea of starting fairly bad at something and getting gradually better over time. They like to see their improvement. And another thing is they do not like that super casual design, things like Moira and Weaver, because if they are more attached to that more competitive design, like a Tracer or a Genji, they do not feel good playing against something that gets free value. It feels lame for a Tracer to stick a pulse bomb on a McCree and the McCree to roll and get the damage resistance for no reason. I think that's lame, and I think a lot of them casual players that play the game, I think that's lame as well. I think the vast majority of people that play the game do not like the casual designs. Even the casual players do not like the casual designs for the game. I made a video about how Blizzard is going to intentionally sabotage 6v6. Of course, they ended up doing that, adding the Season 9 changes to it, and a bunch of other terrible changes, horrible balance patch, and they're going to do another 6v6 test at the mid-season this season, and they're going to add perks to it and all this dog shit, and they're going to ruin it. The big problem is, when the majority of people ask for 6v6 back, they're asking for the old Overwatch 1 experience of 6v6, because it's not just that 5v5 and 6v6 are a big discussion in this game, it's that a bunch of the problems are balance problems and design problems that, regardless of how much you change the format or the core fundamentals of the game, you're always going to have those little details, those little cogs in this big machine that are still broken, that need to be fixed, that Blizzard just are not doing. I made a video about why you shouldn't get better at the game, and how as you get better at the game, you end up enjoying it a lot less, because you end up getting in more scenarios where it's very boring. For example, I said that the queue times get a lot longer, and the overall game quality gets lower, and more people are meta slaving, and more people are more likely to be very annoying and toxic or whatever, which I think those things are fine, but I think the majority of the players don't believe those things are fine. I think that I ended up being correct about that. I made videos about Widowmaker and how she's been broken for basically since her inception, and how she fundamentally breaks the core part of the game, because she's a DPS hero that actually manages to occupy more space than a lot of tank heroes do, because her sight lines are more dangerous than tank heroes. I even ended up making a video saying that Widowmaker was a tank hero, which I still believe. I made a video saying that Hazard would be a disaster and he's fundamentally doomed and how he's broken and everyone's going to end up hating this character. Everyone called me a doomer and a dumbass and how the character was actually fun and great. Turns out a couple of months later, absolutely everyone fucking despises that character, just as I predicted they would, because of course they would. I said that drives are awful and that they incentivize people to deliberately throw games at the end of the season to grind for the drive. Turns out every single drive that's ever released, it turns out people are doing that to this day. Still, somehow, I mean, like, the thing is I don't make this video with this like egomania complex where I'm like, oh my god, look how right I am all the time. It's to say that when a lot of people go to my videos or whatever it may be and they're like, ooh, well, actually, you're wrong, you're gonna be wrong about this. I think people need to be a bit more open-minded, because the vast majority of my videos, if not every one that I've named so far, I actually haven't seen one I've been wrong about yet. Though, you know, maybe I'm wrong and maybe I missed one, I'm not sure, but I did say basically every video I've seen so far as I've scrolled, I've ended up being right about. And a lot of people end up calling me a doomer or a dumbass for that, and that's absolutely fine. I actually don't mind that at all. But it just goes to show that the vast majority of people that are saying shit like I'm wrong or that I'm just complaining for the sake of it actually do not listen to my arguments ever, because if you did, you'd realize, oh shit, yeah, he's actually right. And I would happily accept that if someone wants to go back in my videos and find like a tiny micro detail or even a whole video I'm wrong about, I would love that, and I would love to say, I'd go back and revise it and say, I was wrong about this, I was wrong for these reasons, these are why I thought these things, and these are why these things aren't true. That would be a great video, but so far, no one has been able to do that yet, and as much as I want that to happen, it doesn't seem like it's going to happen anytime soon, considering the fact that basically no one has ever done it, ever. No, I mean, I don't know why I say basically. No one. I reply to comments all the time where people say I'm wrong. I'm like, what am I wrong about? And they never reply. I want someone to tell me what I've been wrong about. I would love that, because I want to revise it. I want to be correct. So if I end up being wrong, well then it's like, this was kind of lame, do you know what I mean? Like, what's the point of me making the video if I'm going to end up being wrong? So I want to correct that, and I want to be correct. But anyway, that's just what the point of the video was. I wanted to go through my channel history a little bit to look at some of the videos I made, the predictions I had made about them, and if I ended up being right about them. And it turns out, essentially every video on my channel has ended up being correct. People are going to say, you're a narcissist, you're whatever. But until you can prove that I haven't been wrong, right, you can't say that. And I love you. Have a good day. Have a good day. Have a good one. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Have a good day. Bye.